Fire Radio.
Stop beating up your expensive sunglasses on or off the job. Frontline Optics is a sunglass brand based out of San Diego, designed for first responders. If you're like me, you're constantly breaking and scratching your expensive designer sunglasses at work. Frontline Optics offers a no-questions-asked replacement program to cover your lost or damaged sunglasses. When the time comes to get yours replaced, all you need to do is cover a $12 service fee and they'll ship a brand new pair to your door. No questions asked. Additionally, a portion of all sales is donated to the First Responder Children's Foundation. Frontline shades are polarized and they offer a free shipping and returns, so you can try them out risk-free. Check them out at frontlineoptics.com or on Instagram at frontlineoptics. While you're there, use discount code THESIZEUP for 15% off. That's code THESIZEUP, one word, for 15% off. Frontline Optics, sunglasses designed with the front line in mind. What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode, where we at 59 of the Size Up by National Fire Radio, because what you do off the job matters. And I always start with that line. That's the tagline. So, technically by like marketing status, I'm supposed to say that a lot during this episode and when I post and things on social media. But it really does, right? It does matter. And I want to kind of start this episode out again, and I do this a lot just because I'm so grateful to be in this position. And I just want to thank everybody for the comments and reaching out about past episodes. And one of the comments that I recently got was about, like, I guess my happiness when I'm on the podcast, because I'm smiling a lot, and I am generally a happy person aside from my like New Jersey-ness attitude that makes me be like, if we're driving, I'm happy, but I'm going to tell you what you did wrong in driving type thing. But I think a lot of the happiness that you see when I'm recording these episodes is that I'm truly happy to be here. I'm happy to introduce guests and interview them and talk to them and get them to share their stories. And I think what's cool about podcasting is it kind of combines education and it combines entertainment, right? Because there's a lot of entertainment value that comes into podcasts. That's why we all tune in and listen or watch or whatever you're doing. But you also get this education in it. And I've always made the joke that, like, if grammar school and high school was based in 1980s movies lines, like if you were teaching me like biology in high school and it was like a 1980s John Hughes movie, I would probably be like a nuclear biologist at this point, because I am so much into that entertainment value of things that that's how I learn. And it's actually how I see my kids learn. And we talk a lot on these episodes. You hear a lot of people talk about YouTube University and watching these videos, but I think that's a big part, is the entertainment end of it. And I'm really stoked today because my two guests, which again, new thing for the Size Up, we haven't done this in a really long time where there's two folks on. They too are podcast hosts in their own right with their own podcasts. And we're going to definitely get into that as we go. But Alan and Caleb, what's going on this morning? How are you guys?
What's up, man?
Hey, how are y'all?
This is when it gets crazy with two guests too, because everybody's like, who's going to talk first? And Pip has to make sure he asks like very direct questions to the person he wants to talk to. And, you're all going to get the learning experience of hosting with two guests here, because I'm in no way an expert at it. It's interesting too. My son just did this huge Broadway theater program, and they talk about going to college for theater and getting, BAs and BAFs, and there's musical theater, and there's all these different things. And I'm like, man, people go to college to learn how to do this entertainment thing. And I know you guys didn't go to college to do this, right, Alan?
No, not at all. Never did. I didn't even think about being any kind of marketing face of anything. So this is, learn as you go.
But you got a good face for it, at least. Like, I definitely do not have a good face for this. Like, your beard is full on, like, you got it right there for sure.
Yeah, been growing this puppy out for a couple of years.
I've been growing mine for let's see, I had one day off and I worked, so like 6 days now. This is like 6 days of no shave, I guess, for me.
Itchy.
So it's the itchy stage. Yeah, it's when I have to go back and shave, right? But it's that thing where it's just what we want to do in life, right? And I think that's a big thing. And Alan, you have a kind of an interesting story that got you to the podcast. But on the emergency services end, do you want to maybe start with that and kind of go back into your history of that? Because you're definitely not a current firefighter with that beard.
No, not at all. The SCBA wouldn't really fit there, would it?
I really don't think you can
So,
get it in with that.
so I started my background a few years ago. Um, I started out as a volunteer firefighter. Got my EMT actually in high school, and then decided to go on that route and actually become a paramedic. And for the past about 20 years now, I've been a certified paramedic. Worked when I was worked with a medic. One of your past guests, Jeremy, he was in PA school. I worked with him. He was one of the special operations paramedics when I first got hired. So actually, when he left, I actually ended up taking his job, his position as a special ops medic. So I was cross-trained in rescue technician, confined space, all that fun stuff. But being the medical person that responds. And then transitioned over to like the education side of things. So I was the field training officer, lieutenant for a shift until I pretty much left. And where I'm at now, I'm actually at a community college running the EMS program as the director of EMS programs here. And I've been kind of just doing that for the past few years. And it's a whole different side of things than being in the field. But
I was thinking that actually, and please don't tune out now because we're going to talk about EMS education in this podcast. There's a lot of other things we're going to get into. Caleb over there has nothing to do with the emergency services. So if you can listen for all that, there's going to be some fitness, there's going to be some CrossFit. Like it's not going to be EMS education because we all know that topic isn't like the most exciting, right?
yeah.
It can be. It really can be. For a lot of folks it is. So I'm not, insulting any of the EMS educators out there. It is a really big deal. But sometimes those classes are just a snooze.
Yeah, no, we actually just finished up. We actually developed it for the guys that want to go to the fire department. So it's like a fast track. It's like, I think 6 weeks, 7 weeks of Monday through Thursday EMT class. And then they just pretty much finished today. They passed their TSOPs yesterday and they go state test tomorrow. And then in like 2 weeks, they go to the fire academy in the back and finish out that. And then they'll go start working on the fire engine. So.
I mean, that fast track. So for the folks out there who are like, what is he talking about? So a normal EMT program is usually like a college semester, and it's like a college class where you're taking it once or twice a week for an hour or two, whatever that is. I think, 180 hours. Is that a good number to throw out there as a basic now for the class?
So basics up down here, not up there. You're further up than me. So we've got, I think it's like 280 something for us.
Okay, see, that's how far off I am then, because it could be, for all I know, like I'm just throwing a random number I thought was right. But when you do it in a very condensed time, I mean, you are getting information thrown at you, and you need to be high speed, low drag to pass. There's just no way you can do it without that.
Yeah, you're literally drinking from a fire hose. It's just in your face all the time, something new. Yep, you just learned that yesterday. Well, or something new. So. Yeah, it's good. But then,
Caleb, what do you think, man? Are you in? Are you in, Caleb? Are you going to do it? I don't know if Caleb's going to do what we just talked about, like drinking from the fire hose EMT with Alan.
I think I'll let Alan just always be beside me, so in case I need something, he's there. But I think I'm gonna pass on that one.
Go with always having Alan beside you if you're going to do something stupid. That's the easiest way to remember that, right? You don't need him by your side the whole time. Like I'm sure he can handle stairs, but if you're gonna, like I'm gonna ride the rail on a skateboard, have Alan near you type of thing.
And then I'll just look at you like, well, all right.
Well, really, the first question will be like, you gonna get up? Like, you okay? Like, there's no rush to save your life there.
Yeah.
So, Caleb, what's a little bit about you and a little of your backstory here?
Yeah. So I work in medical sales here in Eastern North Carolina. I work mainly with orthopedic clinics, urgent cares, and hospitals, primarily. And we do DME equipment, so braces and cold therapy is the company I work for. I've been here a little over 2 years and located here in Wilmington. I'm originally from North Carolina itself, but just started in like the medical industry when I started this job.
Gotcha. Oh man, it's so interesting because my wife is about to be 365 days out of a complete knee replacement. So we've had braces in our house, and we had a name brand, I won't say it, but the cold therapy machine running literally for 6 months in my house. I would say that thing was just like a consistent fill the ice, Pip. Fill the ice was my job around there, right?
Yes.
So
put ice and water.
Oh, ice and water freezing. You know what's odd too with that? They don't tell you. People are like, "How do you get all the ice?" And I'm like, "Oh, I was freezing water bottles repetitively. I just had a repeat
Yeah.
cycle that I would freeze."
That is a pretty common thing. And actually, our company just started back at the beginning of this year providing ice packs in the units just because a lot of people were doing that. So instead of you getting ice now, it comes with ice packs and you just put them in the freezer. So, and you get two sets. So it's pretty nice. So you don't have to worry about that. Because even me, I had knee surgery myself actually a few months ago. And I've been loading it up with ice and stuff. And it's like, well, the ice maker stopped running, I think, at one point. So it's like, what do I do now? So it's kind of funny.
It's weird because I took that, and so one of the podcast sponsors is a cold plunge tub company called New Breath out of Canada, and people are like, I got it in the summer, and people are like, dude, what are you doing for ice? And I was like, I'm taking Tupperware and freezing it in my deep well freezer, and then dumping those huge ice blocks in to cool the water down.
That's pretty smart. I like it.
And I'm actually not that smart. I literally stole that idea from the name brand, we won't say, ice machine maker we were doing for Tracy there. Like, so yeah, super secret hack. If you have a cold plunge tub and you need a deep well freezer or at least some room in your freezer, take any type of large Tupperware, like a shoebox type style, and you get a big ice block out of it. And they freeze in 24 hours. So if you're going every day, you can just keep recirculating it.
Yeah.
Also, too, pro tip for the not smart folks like me, take the water out of the tub each time. Don't go to the sink to fill up and then keep doing that, because then you're going to overflow your
Oh,
tub. See, it took me 4 days to realize that one.
that's pretty smart too.
It's like fireman thing. Like, you're not getting not the smartest people in the world, but we tried. Sometimes it takes us a little bit to get there, but you know. So I know, we're definitely going to get into some fitness stuff, but Alan, on the EMS education end, just because I hinted and alluded to it, what are you kind of seeing trending these days? You were a tactical medic, kind of on that, or a rescue medic, but when you see folks coming into EMS now, is that what they're looking to do? Are they looking to do the medicine end of it, the more tactical end of it? What are you thinking there?
Honestly, it really is like I get actually a large amount right now of students that are wanting to come in to get your contact hours, to go into PA school, to go into apply to medical school, to kind of go into that medicine route. But there's a number of them, but I think one thing nowadays is that EMS, EMTs, paramedics, they're not just in the uh, ambulance anymore. Like, they're in doctor's offices, they're clinics, they're all over the place. So I think that we're kind of starting to see that kind of trend of just not that traditional ambulance, fire truck, public safety. It's kind of branching out. So
I feel like that was a big deal, like when way back when I became an EMT, and I too was in high school when I became an EMT, and most of the other kids that were doing it in my EMT program were like, "Well, I want to be a doctor." They're like, "What about you?" And I'm like, "Nah, I don't have the grades to be a doctor. I'm happy with EMT right now, and I'm just trying to survive like this class, let's say." But you're seeing more of that now, though. That's a good way for them to kind of go down that route.
it really is. Cause, and even still, they may want to come in our program because they need to get contact hours, and they realize, well, I need to get my advanced EMT, the second level up, to actually get those ALS, contact hours. So then they're like, all right, cool. So we have them a little bit, but sometimes if I can grab them and get them the interest to, like, hey, public safety, because honestly, my numbers are low just of enrollment, and I think that's everywhere, at least across the state, if not further out, of just enrollment's just low of like your paramedic and advanced EMT, because it's a lot of schooling, it's a lot of time, and like you said, like, it's hours. Like, those advanced EMTs, like over 300 hours for us, and our paramedic class is well over 1,000 hours. So it's, all in all, it's 2 years. So who's going to spend 2 years just to go to be a paramedic when they ultimately want to be something, like a physician or something? So
Yeah, I mean, and those 2 years are important, and not only that, but the springboard of the educational end of it after that, and where you're going. I see a big trend now, and I'm obviously on social media a lot, of the complaint that you graduated from EMT school in June and you went to paramedic school in August, and then you graduate 2 years later from paramedic school and you go to med school. but you never have that field experience. So
Right.
how do you try to direct people that field experience? I mean, I learned more in my first 2 years as an EMT and my first 2 years as a paramedic, my first 2 years as a firefighter than I ever learned in the class.
Oh, definitely. I think some of those students I'm just not going to reach because they're not interested in it. They've got, when you're that age, you're in your young, early 20s, I got my mindset. I know exactly what I'm going to do. But the ones that are interested that I can tell, I can engage with them and they even come to me like, do you think I should maybe work as an advanced or a paramedic a little while? And then absolutely, because that's going to make you that much better when you have to go actually interview, because they don't tell you all the time that you actually have to interview and sound intelligent and have life experience before you apply to these PA schools and medical schools and things.
Isn't it such a big part that you have to think to tell folks that like you have
Yeah.
to learn to communicate with people. And I often wonder like if there's just too much of this, like, it's right down in front of me. And we talk about this a lot in things, but getting that younger generation to keep communicating with each other is huge.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely.
Caleb, I know from listening to your podcast that you're kind of part of that younger generation, right, buddy? You're a little younger than us, so where do you fall in this conversation then?
I was actually sitting here thinking, I'm like, Alan talks about early 20s. He's probably talking about me in his head. I think it is interesting. I grew up around, I guess, older people. I was the youngest grandchild or youngest cousin. So I kind of grew up around a lot of older people, so to speak. And actually, most of my friends now are older than me. But I do think just the younger generation, and even myself, I don't know if you see me glance over here and my work phone's going off, and I was like, oh, okay. So it's something that we have to have, right? It's something that we're so used to, it's so common. But also, I think people do like that communication portion of the in person, face to face. I know it's something I've kind of just adapted and learned myself. Alan can speak to this. I'm always talking to people. It's nonstop for me. If somebody comes into the gym, I'm like, hey, I don't know you, but this is who I am. How can we help you? Or just something so simple. But I do think people are not aware of, at least the younger generation, of what's in front of them when it comes to the communication portion, because we're so focused on what's in our phone and just different things, social media, and what is this person doing, or for instance, for us, what is that podcast doing that we're not? So something so simple that we get so focused on. So
It's so much coming at you, and I think, because Alan and I are a little older than you are, we didn't have this type of stuff coming at us, and I don't even think we valued talking to people because we didn't have this other thing. We just did it,
Yeah.
right? And it's hard, and I really see it in the fire department where, I have 20 years in now. I'm sure people listening to the podcast are like, why does he always say that? But it's really an important number for me, or for all of us, because I look back to being that kid, that 25-year-old kid walking into the door on my shift, and the guys with 20 years on then were totally different than I am today, and totally different. And I had to kind of interact with them, and they had to interact with me, and we had to kind of figure out how to do that. It's the same thing now, except we have a psychotic distraction. Oh, there's my son Declan. What's up, Dex? But we have a psychotic distraction thrown at us that is taking us all down a different road. So, I mean, as this goes on, Alan, especially too in the EMS world, and that communication, it's the same as you guys in the gym. You're both CrossFit coaches. I've done that. I dabbled in that for a few years. I feel like I dabbled in a lot of things in my life, but I guess that's a good thing. But all that communication matters, and that's something that's probably a whole different lecture. And because I taught EMT for a while too, but that lecture was really small when I taught it. It's probably a huge part of it now, right?
Well, that's so anybody that is in EMS, and as far as like there's accreditations, right? There's accreditations for fire departments, EMS departments. There's also accreditation for education programs. And one of their big things with our accrediting body is affective behavior. And affective behavior is essentially being a professional, being able to communicate effectively, being able to get that constructive criticism and receive it and know that it's not personal. We're just trying to make you better, but also expressing, I need this, I'm not getting this, in a professional way, as opposed to starting an argument with, a crew that doesn't check off the truck like they're supposed to, and they're missing something. All right, well, I mean, people make mistakes, but you can't, be destructive when you're having communication with people that you have to work with on a daily basis. So it is
You
definitely
can't. You can't. Please tell
learning
me you
that.
can't.
But
And
yeah,
again,
it's just, they struggle. Like, this generation does struggle just a little bit with that, the communication piece.
yeah, and it's constantly putting it in front of them. I have a 13-year-old and 11-year-old, and even in this acting program, my 13-year-old was just in. That was a huge part, is receiving constructive criticism from, now it's adults. He auditioned in front of agents and casting directors, and they told him what he did right, what he did wrong. And I'm like, buddy, you have to process this and just get better, because this is how life works, plain and simple.
Yeah.
It's so odd too, like across the board, how that works, how we can translate it from EMT class and right into a CrossFit box when it comes to coaching cues. As a coach, I always like to speak to everyone that I coached. So if I had 30 people in a class or 15 people in a class, I always wanted to make contact with them. I remembered that from the CrossFit level 1, like make a simple contact. And some of it had to do with feeling them out, because for some folks, all I'd need to do is kind of look at them cross, and they would be like, oh, I can fix this. I know what he's talking about. Others I had to maybe whisper to, like, hey, push your butt out a little bit more. Like, you know what I mean? Some I had to put my hand maybe on their shoulder and say something to them. And others I could just yell across the gym, like, fix that now. And they had it. But I'm sure you guys see that too, coaching, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. And that's me and Caleb all the time. We're yelling across the gym at each other. Just, well, one is talking smack, but the same thing, But yeah, definitely.
But that's because you also know how you both respond to each other, right? Because people respond differently to that constructive criticism or coaching moments, whatever we want to call them. And you guys know, you're friendly and you can do what you have to do. But Caleb, like you said before, when new people come into the gym, and I'm sure that comes from your sales job, you're right in talking to them, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it was actually funny. Yesterday we had somebody new at our gym, and Alan never remembers anybody's names. So he's looking at me. He's like, so what were their names? So I told Alan a little trick, and I'm hoping he uses that to learn people's names. But yeah, it's something. Even before I started this job, I worked in higher education, actually, ironically, and I taught the incoming or prospective students every day. So it was something I got used to. But then, I don't know, you can kind of just see it on people's face. It's like, oh, I'm new here. I'm lost. I don't know what's going on. So just having that friendly face for somebody, that will make a lasting impression too, for them. But also just the simple thought of, oh, they took the time to get to know me. This is a place I want to be. Just having that communication and that community aspect that we talk about in CrossFit so much, that correlates to just everyday life too. Because if I go somewhere and I see somebody, if I know where I'm at, and it's like you just have that simple conversation, and you never know what they were going through before you spoke to them. So having that conversation could have meant a lot more than you just saying, hey.
So what's the trick to remembering people's names? Can you share it publicly, or is it is it a
Yeah,
trade secret?
no, that's not a secret. It's not a secret at all. So like for instance, Alan introduces himself to me. I've never met Alan. He said, hey, my name's Alan. I'm Caleb. Nice to meet you, Alan. And it's like you immediately say their name after they say it to you, because if you don't, you'll probably never remember it. So in that 3 second or 3 minute time span that I'm going to speak with them, I will say their name at least 4 to 5 times. So now I remember their name, because as soon as I walk away, if I've never said their name, I will forget. I might remember the conversation, but I'll never remember their name. So just that, try to make sure you like repeatedly say it within the 4 to 5 time span or 45 minute time span. So
See, I always repeat it back to him, but I don't keep saying it. So maybe that's my problem, because I suck
yeah,
at names. Like, I'm not even gonna lie. Like, I will honestly tell people, and a lot of it too, like, is people I've met a few years ago, or maybe I met at a conference or something, and I taught their class, and they remember me, but I don't remember them necessarily because they were, kind of a face in the crowd. Maybe we met, and I try so hard, like, and sometimes I'll just be like, bro, you gotta help me out. Like, please tell me who you are, where you're from, how did we know each other? And some people are like, you coached me when you were at Endorphin for like 3 months. And I'm like, oh, I did. Like, thank you. Now, but it's weird too, because, right, I'll forget their name, but the second they say, hey, you coached me at Endorphin CrossFit for 3 months, I'll be like, oh yeah, you're this and your kid is this. It'll all flood back to me, that memory,
Yeah,
right? But
exactly.
the name is just lost, man. So totally lost. I know, Alan, you probably have those from so many students coming in and out and such.
I unfortunately, I really do. I remember faces or incidences that, whether they got in trouble or they're just a simple conversation. Usually I can remember that if they remind me, but other than that, just, oh, cool.
And it's definitely one of those where like, yeah, good to talk to you, like, good seeing you. And we'll walk away, and like my wife or my son will be like, who was that? And I'm like, I have no idea. Or like, it's even worse too when you're in a hurry and you're like, I don't have time to really figure this out, so I'm just gonna smile and nod a lot, say thanks, good seeing you, and move on. Here's a sticker if I got one in my pocket from something or another. Like, I hope this interaction was good for you, because if not, I'm a big douchebag and I don't want to be that.
Yeah, mine's oh yeah, hey bud, how are you? I don't remember your name, but you get one of those generic bro, bud, something.
It's hard too, because as your world grows, and you guys will definitely see this with the podcast too, sometimes I know people's Instagram names better than I know their real name, because technically we've never met. I may have talked to this person hundreds of interactions online, and it's like, what's your Instagram name? And then I know immediately who they are.
Well, actually, Pip, because you and I met back in 2000. I was actually looking at my Instagram and I saw a picture of was it National Harbor, I think. That
Oh, so
conference,
okay, so you're at
famous
National
GM
Harbor
conference.
one. Okay.
Yeah.
See, and right now I still don't remember you winning the bike. Was that the one you won, or you won it at a different one?
That one, yeah.
At that one. So technically at that one, I was stationed in a different booth. But it's funny because when Alan got introduced to me, he's like, well, we met before. And I went back and found the picture, and I'm like, oh, I kind of remember this, but I don't think I was there when you won, or I might have been. But
no, I think it was it was a girl and then the tall guy.
Yep. Yep. So that was a good one, where, and then for the folks too, back in my past 555 days, we used to do a contest with Zoll Medical, where you would do a minute on the assault bike for max calories, and then you would immediately go into 2 minutes of hands-only CPR. And one of the cool things about this was that, obviously if you're going, even if you're not going all out, a minute on the assault bike sucks for whomever is doing it.
Yeah.
But your first minute of hands-only CPR, we would not let you see the active feedback on the Zoll monitor. Then we would turn the monitor around and you would get a report of your CPR. And we put hundreds of people through this around the country, from firefighters, paramedics, doctors, CPR instructors. That was always my favorite person, the CPR instructor. I had perfect CPR. Don't trust me. Trust me, you're not going to have perfect CPR after this. But that actual feedback loop that Zoll was giving you on their monitor was amazing, because no one started out with perfect compressions. I guarantee that one. And usually the CPR instructors within like 20 or 30 seconds got in the rhythm, but most people, until they saw that feedback, they were totally off, me included, right? Me included.
Yeah. No, that was fun. I had to come back because I was on the top of the leaderboard the first time I did it, and then somebody beat my score, so I was like, all right, last day, I'm gonna wait till the last minute, I'm gonna go do it, and I won it. So it was good. It was a fun time.
It was always fun when you had that person who's like, no, I could do better than this. I'm coming back. Can I do it again? Can I do it again? Like,
yeah.
It was definitely a good teaching tool, though, and it's something too to use with teaching tools that, when you teach people to do a skill in the emergency services, they're generally not under stress, and I feel like that was something that CrossFit did for me. Was it gave me like a physical stress level to have to think about the movement I was doing, because some of them are really complex. Like you can hurt yourself doing a barbell movement. We all know that, and you have to think. And it's the same as in emergency services, where your heart rate is up. You need to think quickly, but you need to think safely. And it was something that I took out of it very early. What are your guys' feelings on that when it comes to the thought process of CrossFit?
Yeah, I think we talk about it all the time. At least sometimes we do, but it's the concept of dealing with what's in front of you now when it comes to CrossFit, doing the hard thing that's in front of you, kind of exiting out of your mind, focusing on the heavy barbell, or the running or the gymnastics portion that you have to do that's right in front of you. And I do believe that translates to everyday life because, like you said, it's like you realize that you're able to do the hard things, that you're able to maintain whatever you're doing when hard things come. So I think that portion is something that most people don't focus on in CrossFit, but I think should be elaborated a little bit more because, for instance, if you're doing chest to bar pull ups and it's like, I don't know if how much pulling strength I have left. Well, after a while, you start to realize you have more than you think, or lifting not even a heavy barbell, but just lifting a barbell and thinking I can't go again, but you realize you can. That translates to my everyday life. For me, it translates to, oh, when hard things come up at work or stuff you don't want to deal with in life, it's like, I know I can get past this point.
Hell, man, for chest to bar pull-ups, was always focused on, like, don't hit your face on the bar pit. Like, that was my focus. Like, don't crush your grill because it's not going to be good. Alan, what about you, like, in the emergency services mindset of that, getting your heart rate up too? And EMS, it is a very physical job. It's not sold as a physical job at all. And, firefighting and law enforcement definitely sold as a physical job. But, maybe it's getting a little bit better. But where are you at with that one and that fitness level?
I wish I could say that EMS is getting better when it comes to the physicality of what we do, but it's really not. We were on another podcast recently, and it was one of the things is the culture just isn't there as far as fitness. It's you go to school to treat somebody, take care of somebody, but you're really not. It's like a chapter. It's a very small chapter in the book of taking care of yourself, whether it's your mental health or your physical health. But then that's literally it. It's maybe a quiz or something. We don't really focus on it. So, as far as EMS professionals, it's literally you get into it. Yeah, you're gonna lift and move, proper mechanics, body mechanics, all that good stuff. But then you get in there and you're like, oh man, I'm getting in and out of this truck multiple times a day. I'm right in the back, standing up, holding on, doing CPR, or starting an IV or intubating, whatever I'm doing. And I'm not seatbelted in, so I'm getting jolted around when the driver does whatever they do, so it takes a toll on your body. And if you don't do any kind of physical activity to kind of keep all the muscles engaged and just train your body to kind of deal with that, then you're going to be hurting. And that's where a lot of the stuff comes from, of injuries in EMS specifically, because it's just poor diet, poor nutrition,
the normal program is like 45-minute lifting and moving lecture and maybe like a 2-hour practical. But real deal EMS is lifting and moving is 85% of the day is lifting and moving people, right? Like, yeah, sure, the medical stuff all goes in, but you got to get them in the ambulance.
Yeah, they just had I got the window of my office like faces out onto the main drag of our campus, and I saw an ambulance coming in here, running lights and sirens. They parked right in front, right at the bottom. And I saw, you can kind of tell when something's more serious, people have a little bit more pep in their step. Turns out there was a cardiac arrest. Somebody's in cardiac arrest here at the school. And going there, I just being nosy because it's just our nature, right? Go down there, and of course they're doing CPR. Fire department shows up. They're doing CPR. They're doing all this physical activity on this hard floor, and they didn't look like they were too out of shape. But when they were probably just sitting on their couch, not doing anything, when they got the call. So now they're going from 0 to 60 just like that. So it's tough.
Dude, I am in shape, and I hurt after a CPR call. Right? It's a really easy way to put it. Like, and the people that know me know I'm right on the ladder truck now, so there's not much EMS in my life anymore. But even when there was, and I was full-time CrossFit coaching, full-time on the engine, going to EMS stills, working as a paramedic, I was hurting after calls, and you're right back in the mix in EMS. I was in a busy system, so there was 12-hour shifts with 15 dispatches, and it could be back-to-back CPR calls.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just the calls. People are like, oh, they're making it easier for you because the stretchers are mechanical and the stair chairs have treads on them. But all that did was make the stretcher and the stair chair heavier to carry to where you need to go to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like there was a time in the system that I'm involved in where they were carrying both stair chairs, like the old school, 2-handle little light metal jobber, Furno metal jobber. Oh, see, that's the name. but that was a great stair chair. And I would sometimes, if we would show up on the engine, I would tell the kids on the ambulance, I'm like, go get the other one. We'll carry with this because we can do this better than your crazy one. You froze up a second, Alan. You there?
Yeah, I'm here now.
Okay. Yeah, like where you would pick that, because I'm like, listen, we'd rather carry with this light one safely than use this humongous bulky one.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, that's the thing. I think, and then they came out with the actual mechanical stair chair that does the walking up for you, but you still got to carry
battery.
Yeah,
with the battery. You still got to carry it there. It is such a physical job. And again, it's not sold as that, right? And that's a big part of it. And it's the same as, I listened to your podcast with our friend Jen, who we'll talk about in a little bit. But one of the things that she said in that podcast that I've echoed is that, CrossFit isn't necessarily sold as what it is either, because people see the CrossFit games and they run to CrossFit, right? And we know that is a very, she said 1%. It's way less than 1% of the population make the CrossFit game.
Yeah, it's a fraction. Yeah.
But that's one of the things, right? It's so much more. It's just physical activity, right? That's it. It's really good physical activity in a group setting.
Yeah.
It's just like if you sold EMS to be like, it's driving around a lot and lifting and moving people and occasionally making a very good impact in their life.
Yeah. If you can find a slow service nowadays to work for EMS, you got it made cake. You're literally just, what they say, earn money sleeping, right? EMS. But nowadays it's so busy. You're in the truck the whole day, 13 hours if it's a 12-hour shift, 24-hour shift, even worse, so it's definitely not sold like it should.
Yeah, I don't know if those slow services exist anymore.
I don't think so.
Just the amount of people, right? Like, think about where you guys are, right? And again, listening to your podcast with Jen in Wilmington, North Carolina, like the population boom that's probably happened there, right? That she talked a little bit about when she was looking for a spot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I don't know the current stats, but I know it's like sleeping population is close to 300,000 just in a 150 square foot small area of Wilmington itself. But then we've got a couple counties that kind of come in there, but it's just like, then we've got colleges. The college is in session. Summer, it's a tourist location. So, it's hundreds of thousands of people in this area. So,
and there's no one looking at that number to be like, hey, we should add more ambulances. Like, because more people are going to call 911 now for varying reasons.
Yeah, they're always behind the 8 ball when it comes to preparing for what it is. But, it's red tape. I get it, but still.
Starbucks is not behind the 8 ball. They're adding more Starbucks, like, right? Anywhere they need to. Like, they're ahead of the curve.
Chick-fil-A too.
Chick-fil-A too, yeah, closed on Sundays, but there's actually a Chick-fil-A on 8th Avenue in Manhattan, and I was like, wow, they're closed on Sunday. Chick-fil-A is everywhere you need it to be. And it's not the worst fast food for you, right? But when you're talking about those folks coming into EMS and coming into the CrossFit gym, maybe with those expectations of it's going to be like this, how do you kind of combat that, Caleb, when that person walks into the gym for the first time? I know they're nervous. I know I was nervous when I walked into my first ever, oh God, what did they used to call that class? Foundations? Something like that?
Yeah.
That had to do the 6 classes or whatever that was, way back when. But, how do you kind of combat that with folks?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, and I tell people all the time that CrossFit was not created for what you see on TV, right? CrossFit was literally created for us, your everyday athletes that we speak of on our podcast, the people that walk into the gym that just came in here to move, or the insurance agent that just wants to get out of his desk and do something every day, right? So I think when people start talking to other people, so they start that class and they start talking, then they find out, oh, you're not somebody who wants to really do that, but you're just here for your health. Or I want to move because I realize that for me, I tell this joke, but 20 years from now, when I'm 45, I want to be able to go outside and play with my kid, right? I want to be able to move and throw a football with my friends on the beach and not have to worry about getting injured. So simple things like that, I think, when they start having those conversations with other people in the gym, they realize that we're more alike than we think, even though CrossFit is portrayed as this is the fittest people on earth and we can do anything. Yeah, it is. And the mental aspect of that is true. Like, yeah, we can do anything that we put our mind to, but it's just the thought of you're here for your health. Let's make it and we can do it together.
Speaking as the 45-year-old guy who goes outside and throws the football with my kids, I don't know how my life would be if I wasn't doing fitness for those past 25 years, even at the level I was, because my boys wear me out when we're doing things outside. I'm like, you guys are killing me today, man. And like we work out together now, and the 13-year-old, he gets me a lot, man. He gets me a lot. He's starting to learn pace, which isn't helping either. Like, because he used to go out like a cannonball, and I would just be like, all right, I got this kid at the end. But now he's picking up the pace end of it, and I'm like, you son of And his little brother too. I could even say that with it. His little brother we just did our family workout this weekend, and he's like, Dad, what weight should I use? Like, he knows like the difference in using, a 20-pound sandbag versus a 25, and the value of asking me which one for this specific workout should he use.
Nice. Yeah. That's awesome.
Which again are lessons I never thought I would get from fitness. Like not just CrossFit, but from fitness of like, being the 25-year-old who was like, yeah, I could do 135, and stripping the weight down to, a lot less than 135 3 minutes into the workout.
Yeah. It's actually funny. We actually had someone that just finished foundations at our gym. She is 71, if I'm not mistaken. And she was lifting, I think it was Tuesday, and we had snatch balances. And I said, that looked pretty good. She said, yeah, I like the challenge. And something that simple, like, she's like 71. She doesn't have to be here, but she's like, I want something to challenge myself every day. And I think that just speaks to our mindset. I think we all want something to challenge ourselves, but when it becomes hard, it's like, what do you actually do to challenge yourself? And for us, it might be CrossFit or work-related stuff. But I think just the mindset of, I want something to better myself. I want to turn my weaknesses into my strong suits and eliminate the weaknesses overall if we can, right?
Yeah, those challenges go way beyond just physical, right? Look at you guys. Yeah. Hey, let's start a podcast, right? So, I mean, and I listened to the first episode there, and I'm like, wait, so you have a gym and your coaches, and you're like, let's start a podcast. Where did that come from? Whose idea was that, aside from maybe Jen's?
It was a spare of the moment thing. I think Alan threw it at me, and I was like, that's a good idea. Let's talk about it. And it kind of just happened. And I think a lot of people don't realize the challenge of starting a podcast. It was a lot of back end watching YouTube, the education version of YouTube,
for sure.
Learning stuff. And even now we're like, man, we didn't realize how much work it would take. Even till this point now, it's like, wow, we put more time in it than we thought. So it has definitely been a challenge.
Yeah, it's a challenge that I was happy to take on. And like I said in the intro, this is my happy time, right? This is my happy, I'm hosting, we're talking, we're having a great conversation, we're laughing. When I stop the record button and it comes down to the editing and the posting and the making you guys look good in your clips and making me look okay and not having this and wondering, are people actually listening and are they like this? Is the content you're putting out there good? Then it's like a whole new challenge of like, good Lord, what did I get myself into?
Yeah.
And
that's one thing I was, because I look at I upload all the stuff, like Caleb edits everything, kind of gets it where it needs to, and I upload it and put the little descriptions and stuff. But I'm one of those that like looks at our counter, how many downloads we've got every day, multiple times a day. Like I told Caleb, I was like, I got to stop doing that. That's not healthy. But like, yeah, I'm just curious of what are we doing, what people are interested in, it's just, but I think the creative freedom is just one of the coolest things about it. Just like freedom of being myself and being able to just kind of show that to the world. It's just really like freeing and really cool.
Yeah, it's such a great feeling. It's such a great high. And I even like it, like my next guest that I'm interviewing, she's never been on a podcast before. And I'm like, this is so much fun. Like, you've never done this. Like, let's watch you kind of to learn how to do this too with me, and just kind of have this good conversation. And it's such like Caleb, I can go back to this like in everything in life. It's that challenge. Like I'm always looking for that next challenge, like whatever that may be, whether it be physical, mental, you name it, I'm looking for it.
Yeah. I think I'm pretty sure every guest that we've had, you can tell they're nervous like right away. It's like, oh man, do I know what I'm talking about? Should I be here? Should I even be doing this? And then afterwards, they were like, wow, that was more fun than I realized. And even the last interview we just had with our in-house nutritionist, she was just like, okay, I was way more scared than I realized, but it was amazing. So it was
Yeah.
good to hear. And it gives you comfort because it's like, oh, maybe we are doing what people want to hear and what people want to know. So
Yeah, that's definitely the big compliment for me is like when people are like, dude, I really like that episode, or I really like that you talked about that challenge. Like, and you're like, cool, you were listening at the 37-minute mark still. So clearly the whole beginning didn't suck, right? Because that's something we as a society, we as people, whatever you want to say, everyone's afraid of failure, right? Let's just say that, right? You're afraid whether you're in the back of the ambulance and you're starting that IV, you're afraid if I miss, like no one's back there but the patient. Sometimes the patient's not even conscious. They don't even know that you missed, right? The only person that knows that you missed is you. You're all alone, right?
Yeah.
But you have that pressure, that performance pressure. And that happens in a gym when you're in a group setting too. It happens when you're putting yourself out here like this.
Yep. That's right.
So like speaking of someone who I don't feel like is afraid of anything is this bad penny that keeps coming back into my life, Jen DePoto, the owner of your gym. Like, she runs the 9/11, we'll call it the 9/11 Promise Run, because I think that's the official name of it.
yeah.
And I happened to meet her because they stop at my firehouse is one of their water stops. This run runs from the Pentagon to the World Trade Center site during the 3 days prior to 9/11. So they finish on 9/11. So here comes this girl into my firehouse to talk to us about a water stop, and clearly Pip is the fitness guy, so they direct her to me. And that was, dude, I can't even tell you when that was. It was one of the first years, obviously, but every year she comes back. We started following each other. Then one year she got me to run with them in through like part of New Jersey, on a total lie that we were going to be doing like a 9-minute pace, and it was like a 6:30 pace because they were late. I actually used the excuse Jen wasn't running for a little bit. I'm like, I gotta go talk to Jen about something, like to get in the car for like 10 blocks. And then, I've met her a few other times, but she's just a great woman. She has a great mission, and now they have so they also have a bike ride, which I've said I'm going to do and still haven't done yet. So she's after me to do that.
Yep, she is.
It was like the first thing she said to you guys when somehow you must have told her you were coming on my podcast or something, or however
Yeah, I
that
was
came.
because we were just obviously talking about marketing for the podcast, trying to help that grow, and I was like, hey, yeah, I've got a line with maybe being on a National Fire Radio podcast, and these guys in Jersey, do we stop in New Brunswick or anything like that? He's like, yeah, we do. Who is it? I said your name. She's like, yep, know him very well. Oh, and by the way, tell him he needs to follow up on his promise to do that bike.
I'll get there, Jen, someday. One night, I'm not even gonna lie to you. One night we were out celebrating something. I don't know if it was something for my chief. And so we're in a bar, we had dinner, we're hanging out. There were some folks at the bar, a guy and a girl, and we were kind of like ordering our drinks over them. So, a lot of rowdy firefighters, they started talking to us and, oh, you guys are firefighters? And this woman's like, oh my God, I do this 9/11 Promise Run. And I'm like, oh, with Jen DePoto? You stopped at our firehouse. And the lady's like, no way, I did. Like, no, wait, I did. And then we're like, I'm taking pictures and texting Jen. I'm like, this lady says she knows you type thing. I'm like, I can't get rid of this woman in my life.
It is like a bad penny. That's right.
That's it, right? She just keeps coming back, and she's very persistent.
Yeah.
But it's cool because, she's really supportive of the podcast, obviously. And that's just a good thing to have someone that's supportive in your life, right?
Yeah, it was, like Caleb was talking about, we talked about on one of our episodes, but it was just like, me and Caleb, our relationship kind of just came out of nowhere. We had a mutual friend that kind of hooked us up together to kind of MC a CrossFit competition that the gym was hosting. And then it kind of flourished from there. But then Jen just kind of lets me and Caleb do our thing and be who we are. And that support is just, you you can't buy that anywhere. So starting the podcast, we were like, hey, Caleb, what do you think? She's like, yeah, let's do it. So we talked to her. She was all about it. She was obviously, yep, we got to have it, this, that, make sure, got a right mission. So had her mission, and essentially the Seacoast brand is what it's all about, whether it's, her vision and all that, make sure that's expressed through it. But yeah, man, she's got quite the reach for sure.
It's so cool too, because I'm not I don't listen to many fitness podcasts anymore, not like I used to, but I don't think there's many that are coming out of a gym, right? That like most people are like a high level fitness person that's doing a podcast.
Oop.
Oh,
I think
did
we
we
lost
freeze a
you
little bit?
a little bit.
Oop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like I don't think there's many podcasts out there that are just coming out of a gym. Like most fitness podcasts are someone who's like a high level fitness athlete or
Yeah.
influencer or whatever your brand, let's say, that runs a podcast, not necessarily many gyms.
Yeah, I think that was one of the things that we were kind of nervous about, is like, who really wants to listen to us about fitness? Because we're just literally your everyday athlete, and that's how we market it. But I think that's what makes it unique, is because it's essentially by the people for the people that do the So I think that's what, I think that's why, it is. And I think like right now we're kind of introducing people to our gym and the different people in our gym and what we're all about. And then obviously our next phase is to get into small businesses in the area and nonprofits and things like that to kind of spread our reach a little bit. But I think
which is so cool too, because you're really all about, and I can tell in Jen's episode, she is all about the Wilmington area in North Carolina.
Yeah.
I really thought she was from Wilmington, Delaware. When I met her, I guess I didn't know that part of it, so it's cool to know that now. Like I got that part right. I said Wilmington. I thought Delaware. And went from there. She said something about Northern Virginia or something at one point. So I'm like, no worries. But it's always cool when you get to give back to your local community in more ways and highlight that community, just because that's what it is you guys are all about, community. Awesome. So where can the folks find you guys on the podcast? Because I haven't said the name of it yet. Oh no, you're freezing again. Stop freezing. Oh, there you go. So where can everybody find the podcast?
Caleb?
Yeah, so we are on majority of all platforms. So your Spotify, Apple Podcast, and I think Amazon, if I'm not mistaken.
On Google, pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much everywhere. And Seacoast Shark Talks is the name. So you can feel free to search us, find us there. Also, our Instagram, we are just using our main Seacoast CrossFit Instagram. So you can check that out as well. We love showcasing those everyday athletes, right? I actually do and assist with all the like social media content myself. And one of the big things before I took over, it was like, I see Proven Fitness and I see Mayhem and they're posting all their athletes. Why can't we do that at our gym and showcase what we have, right? It's
Sure.
like, yeah, we have the 55-year-old that just came in here and started moving, or the 70-year-old that I talked about earlier. So why not showcase those people like everybody does? Because for me, I wanted to see those everyday athletes. I could care less. It's cool to see the people who make it to the games and they talk about their experience, but let's dig into a little bit more. And I think that correlates to our podcast, right? It's like we want to dig in a little bit more and find out the challenges that they face in their everyday life and how CrossFit helps them get through those challenges. But yeah, definitely check us out on all those platforms. Our podcast releases every other Wednesday. So stay tuned for those. And we actually have mini episodes where we do like small encouragement sessions that just started as well.
And it's so cool too, like you shouted out those bigger gyms that have podcasts like Ever Proven and Mayhem. And, that's just respect to them, to say like, hey, you guys have this great thing and we want to do this for our community. I think it's great. Like, and like you guys said, you're out there listening to other podcasts. Like, look, we're competitors, right? We're competing for the same listening ears. I don't care who you are. We're competing with people like Joe Rogan and Smartlist and, just these mega stars in their own right who are like, I'm going to do a podcast because it's fun. Like, meanwhile, we're like, I'm going to do a podcast and it's not fun except this part, right? But we're all out here supporting each other. And I think that's one of the coolest parts, again, of getting to meet new people and jump on different podcasts and go back and forth and just talk about that community and get it to expand. I love it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, we're getting to that. I don't want to keep you. I know Caleb's got a lot of devices to sell today, and I'm sure Alan, you have the youth of the North Carolina area to go and educate at some point, right?
Yeah.
But I like to finish this with a size up 10, like everybody knows, and this one's going to be interesting because it's two folks who are friends answering questions, and I just see this already. It goes downhill without two people being here. So I think what we're going to do is I'm going to ask the question, and oh, Jesus Christ. What could I do here, sweet Jesus? Like, I don't know. Alan, you go first. Your name, alphabetical order. So you answer, and then Caleb answers, and then I'm sure you'll bicker amongst yourselves about who lied or who didn't or something like that, right? So the size up 10. Here we go. Good Lord. Alan, beach or mountains?
Say that again?
Beach or mountains?
Beach all day.
Caleb?
Beach, definitely.
Look at that. You guys really are good friends. Alan, a night out or a night in?
Honestly, probably a night in.
Caleb, you better say the right answer here.
Definitely a night out.
Yeah.
Amen.
Which is 20-something.
Exactly. Because if you said a night in, I'd be like, we're going to talk. When we hit the record button, I'm going to talk to you about your life in the future, pal. We're going to have a deep dive into that. Alan, a good book or a good movie?
Good movie.
Caleb?
Definitely a movie. Yeah.
There you go. All right. This is a big one, Alan. Cross-country road trip. Who is your celebrity co-pilot, living or dead?
Oh. I know he's a bit crazy, but first one that comes to mind is Tom Cruise.
Oh, all right. That'd be an interesting one for sure.
Yeah,
Caleb?
Definitely The Rock. I think that would be interesting.
Yes, The Rock would be good. The Rock would be cool to have in the car just to see him pull up next to people like he does on his social media and look at them and then talk to them.
Yeah.
That would definitely be, that's a damn good one. Man, no one said The Rock yet. All right. Alan, do you make your bed every day?
I sure don't.
Caleb?
I do.
You do?
I do,
good
actually,
for you,
yeah.
young man. Good for you.
Of course.
Of course he does, because Alan said he didn't. Caleb's like, of course I do. All right, we're going to flip this up, because now I'm realizing Caleb has a little bit of time to get his answer prepared, and I'm not catching him off guard. That's not fair to you, Alan, right? That's totally not fair. See, just made that up. So, Caleb, what's a book everybody needs to read?
A book, Atomic Habits.
Oh, my wife is reading that right now, and I'm going after it. Very cool, very cool. Alan?
So, actually, what is it called? Mind Gym.
Mind Gym or Gem?
Gym, Gym.
Okay, Mind Gym. All right, I'll have to check that one out. I thought you were going to say Mosby's Paramedic version 7.
Yeah. No.
Caleb, highways or back roads? Which one do you take?
Back roads. I'm from the country, so.
Alan?
Highway. I got to get there, man.
Caleb, give me a bucket list place to visit.
Definitely Australia.
Nice. I'm going in December.
Yeah.
Going in December.
I'm jealous.
Alan, where are you heading to?
Well, I was going to say the same.
You could say the same. It's okay. No one will think you guys have a special relationship that's different if you want to go to the same place.
I kind of want to go to. I want to go to Fiji this year, honestly.
Nope. That's a good one. That is definitely a good one. I like to. In the one episode, I was listening to you guys talking about some of your travel adventures. So it was fun to listen to that one. If you can pick that one up, I don't remember what episode it was, but all right. This is a big question. We'll see how it goes. Caleb, football or football?
Football.
Football, the oblong one, pigskin.
Yes. Yeah.
Alan?
Well, yeah, I'd have to say football too.
Totally okay. Just, I like to learn people's global world views, and I think that's a good question to kind of figure out where you're at in society these days. All right, last one. Caleb, you may be my youngest guest to date, I think. So this is an interesting one for you, but hey, let's go with it, man. The best advice you could give to your younger self.
Ooh. I think the best advice was give time.
I like it. I like that one. Right? Especially too being at your age. That's a good. I'm going to use that on my son today. Give time. Alan, what, are you going to beat that one, Alan, or no? Because that currently is it's up there.
That's pretty good. Honestly, don't be afraid to be yourself.
Oh, I love that, man. You can't tell anyone that enough, right? You can't tell yourself that enough. You can't tell anyone else. You just got to get out there. Like my wife says, pink hair, don't care. And she's got pink hair and green glasses and lots of tattoos, and she's in there doing her physician assistant job at the highest level she can because she is herself.
Nice. That's good. Yep.
I love it, man. That's such a great way to end this one, man. I can't thank you guys enough, man. It's been a great hour with both of you. I think we had a good conversation here, right? Like nobody really stepped on each other. Like if I look at like podcast hosting rules that are written nowhere, like the how-to book. I mean, I guess there is probably a how-to podcast book, right? There's got to be one.
Yeah, probably.
I should probably read that one these days. I may get good at doing this. But I really enjoyed the conversation, guys. It was a good time. I hope you had the same. Oh no, you froze.
Lost chicken.
Oh, there you go. You're back. So I was saying I really had a good time. I don't know if this is again something that, I don't know if I have to up my internet. I don't know if it's because my son is homesick today and he's on the internet. Sometimes people freeze, sometimes they don't. It's very weird. So if you guys find that solution to guests freezing, please secretly share it with me.
Yeah, we've actually got to figure out how to do virtual. We've got a couple virtual interviews to do here coming up, so we got to figure out how to do that. So,
Alan, you froze as you were talking there, and I don't know if it actually came through.
yeah, I was just saying we've actually got a couple virtual interviews we got to do for our podcast coming up, so we got to figure that out too. So,
good luck, gentlemen.
Yeah.
Well, listen, man, thanks again for coming on. Thanks to everybody for listening. Maybe one day soon I'll get Jen DePoto on. We could talk about the 9/11 Promise Run and Ride and how I'm eventually someday going to do that. But make sure you guys check these guys out at Seacoast.
Shark Talks.
Shark Talks is the podcast. But what's the gym's IG?
Seacoast CrossFit.
Seacoast CrossFit. Awesome. You can check them out there. Follow it. Listen to Seacoast Shark Talks, especially the Jen DePoto episode. Shout out to her. She's got a great story. And, it's just a cool thing when you talk about building community. And I think that's something we're trying to do here with National Fire Radio without even knowing it, is that we've built this community together and we just keep adding to it. We have some cool things coming up. And for the Size Up by National Fire Radio, this is Pip, because what you do off the job matters.
National Fire Radio.